I don't know what to do here.
Like he knows how to deal with a murder.
Yeah, he'll help me out here.
You're listening to Fucks Given, the one with Scroobius Pip.
If you're around your 30s, you will know Scroobius Pip from the spoken word poetry, the rap that he used to do back in the day. We would hear it in the clubs. It was everywhere. It was on XFM, like on the radio, everywhere. So,
and he's
we're really
become
excited.
A podcast icon during the last few years as well.
And he agreed to come on our podcast and talk about sex. So we are so excited and so enthralled. We actually can't wait. Can't fucking wait. But Florence, before we... Oh, you were just about to get there. But Florence, do you have any updates for us? Anything exciting in the world of Florence?
Well, not really. I woke up so horny last night in the middle of the night that I had to masturbate. And, like, I was so horny that, like, I came really quickly and all I was using was my hands.
I wonder if you... That's some crazy shit. I wonder if you were, like, thinking about sexy dreams. If you're not masturbating... I mean, I'm finding I'm getting a lot of wet dreams at the moment because I'm not having sex or masturbating.
Yeah.
And the wet dreams are literally about sex, and then I wake up like so fucking horny, or that I've come in my dream.
I was thinking about the fantasy fuck episode that we did with Tara, and I was like, well, a fantasy is a fantasy. I can think of like the dirtiest shit possible, and it's just a fantasy, and that's why I get so crazy.
What were you thinking about?
I can't even read.
You can't, please, Florence.
No.
That's heartbreaking for me. I need to know.
Some things are left in the dark. Some things
man.
I can keep to myself, and that is okay.
That is okay. That is okay. Fuck. My update isn't as exciting, but I wanted to recognise, my friend said this recently, actually today, she said this today, and it made me really realise. So in the last episode I was talking about how all of my horniness sort of just came to me like a sack of bricks, like it has done for you. And she mentioned it's probably because I've given up some of the things that make me excited and give me all that dopamine rush, like a partner, like a relationship, like sex, and like drugs and alcohol. You know, I've given up drugs, most drugs, not all drugs. And I think that's why I got that horniness, like that almost like crazy frustration moment.
Yeah.
I was talking to my therapist this morning, and I was saying that, oh, this doesn't feel right. You know, I gave up drugs and I'm still getting some of the symptoms I thought were from drugs. Like, you know, when you can't sleep because you're so horny and you cannot either get a person out of your thoughts or a situation or a scenario. And I was driving myself mad this week because I was like, you know, I couldn't sleep because I kept overthinking it. And I woke up and I couldn't get back to sleep. And I was just like so angry about it. And she was saying that could be part of the histrionic personality disorder that I associate with so deeply. Rather than, I was thinking it was ADHD. I was like, that sounds like an ADHD thing. And of course, I've had my ADHD test and I don't have ADHD. But I do have cluster B personality traits. I made a video on YouTube if anyone wants to know what's going on there.
The best kind.
So fun. You know what? It could have been one of the other clusters. I'm grateful I got my cluster. I'm grateful.
What are the other clusters?
Like, the other clusters are
cluster B's like pretty bad.
Yeah, cluster B is pretty bad, but there's cluster A and cluster C, man.
Oh shit.
You know, like, it's like literal psychopaths. And like,
oh, I see.
Yeah. So I feel like I got the okay cluster. I have, cluster B personality traits is where I have traits from these personality disorders. And they don't like to diagnose personality disorders anymore because they're quite like outdated and backwards and can be really unhelpful. Yeah. It was really helpful for me. Really helpful. Yeah. I mean, I went into a deep, dark depression hole of, oh my God, I'm a horrible, horrible person. But then changing that thought process around.
I'm an actual narcissist.
Yeah, that was it. I was like
the buzzword.
I was reading all these articles and it was like how to survive if you're in a relationship with someone with cluster B personality trait, and I was like, oh God, I'm awful.
Oh,
but
no.
So no, I've learned to love it. I've learned to love it. I've learned to accept it and actually appreciate the fact that I have I have this. This is part of me. This is why I am the way that I am. And
Yes.
some things are actually not so bad to have. Like literally thinking everyone fancies you. I think that's a narcissistic trait, right? That is full narcissism.
You've been saying that recently, and I've been thinking on the side. I'm like, well, it's just that is the narcissism.
That's the narcissist part. The narcissistic.
I mean, it's a
part.
nice feeling for you to feel
Yeah.
like everyone fancies you.
Yeah, and I just have to roll with it. There's nothing I can do, really. There's nothing I can do apart from just accept and be happy about it. Obviously, there are times I am not happy and it becomes really problematic and difficult. Like trying to making people think that I'm coming on to them when I actually am not sexually attracted to them at all, and that can be really confusing. And I just think I'm being nice, but it comes across extremely flirty and like I want to fuck them. That can be complicated.
Like a layer of like confidence that you get from the personality traits.
Yeah, I mean, look at me. I am the classic definition of like histrionic personality disorder.
You literally go up to every hot guy that you see in the street and ask for his number, and if he's single.
Yeah, everyone. It's like a challenge. I'm like, oh my god, hot guy. I will regret if I don't say anything. Yeah, except the one time I was crying and I saw a hot dude and I was like, should I? Maybe not today.
Not today. And then you were like, oh, I really regret it.
I did. I regretted it the whole day. I still regret it now because he was fit as fuck. And I was like, he would have been fine. He would have seen my tears. Maybe he would have found it hot. And then.
Oh, I mean, he would have been into your kind of shit if he found that hot.
That is true. Like, oh, made me cry.
He's like, oh, sweet, vulnerable child.
Yeah, like, fuck me till I'm bawling my eyes out. Oh, God, why is that so hot? I just want to add before we move on, histrionic personality disorder is extremely problematic. The whole thing is really outdated and old and is directed at women. And some of the traits on there are like, wears too much revealing clothes, like inappropriate clothes, and is too flirty. And that is just like, it's really frustrating. Like the term histrionic comes from hysteria, where women were locked up for being hysterical. So
yeah,
the whole thing is a mind fuck. But yeah, enough about me and all my personality disorders.
And all of them.
It's fascinating. I love learning about this shit about ourselves. Maybe that's the narcissism in me. I love learning about me.
Myself.
Myself.
And on that note, shall we get our guest on?
Yeah, maybe.
So that we stop talking about Reed.
Okay. I mean, that sounds horrible, but okay. Hello, Scroobius Pip. Welcome to the pod.
Hello, delighted to be here.
Do you prefer being called Scroobius Pip or by another name?
Just Pip. That's the shortest version of it. I've given myself a stupid name. I need to make it as easy for everyone else as possible.
Amazing.
I like Pip.
We're so delighted to have you on. I mean, I remember hearing you on the radio all the time and in the clubs and absolutely loving your music and your spoken word and rap. It was a game changer back then with music, I found.
It was definitely an interesting one. There wasn't anyone in the UK doing what me and Dan were doing at that time kind of thing. So it was a weird blessing and a curse because it meant we didn't have a scene to be part of, but it meant our gigs had punk kids there, had hip hop kids there, had electronic kids there, indie kids,
That's
everything.
Really cool.
It was a real mix, and we'd get like people a lot older as well. So we'd always have a few people like in their 50s or whatever else. You're like, that's cool that there's this mix of things. But yeah, it makes it tough because every other band gets to go. Like in that era, any female singer-songwriters could go, right, well, what did Lily Allen do? Like, we need to get on this radio show or do this or do that. But we didn't really have a blueprint to learn from. We were just, let's just do everything. Let's do as much as we can. So,
do you get sick of people like being like, oh, just a band, or like, you know?
The one that gets me is because I stopped making music a good few years back. Every time I post, like I feel I can't talk about it because anytime I mention it, everyone's like, you're going to make a new album? You're going to come back to music? I'm like, I'm not, no. But it's still exciting.
Podcaster now.
Yeah, exactly. But it's nice to reflect on memories and stuff like that. But genuinely, I've had points before where I've posted a photo from a gig that we did and this amazing crowd and all this. And I've ended up taking it down because every comment is stop teasing us, stop it. I'm like,
Oh,
I'm not teasing. I'm just remembering my life, man. I'm just
reminiscing
thinking about times. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for anyone who doesn't know who you are on this podcast, please explain to our curious fuckers a bit about yourself and what you do now.
So I'm Scroobius Pip. I started off doing spoken word and rap and hip hop and this weird mixture of stuff. I was lucky enough that the first single I did was Thou Shalt Always Kill, which had the Just a Band bit in, and it got in the charts, so it meant we could tour the world. So I did that for about 10 years, and then I stopped to move into acting and screenwriting and podcasting. So I've had a podcast for 9 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
9 years.
Wow.
You literally must have had like one of the first podcasts, because we had one 5 years ago, and I was like, that was the beginning of podcasting. Obviously
really
not.
early doors. Yeah, it's interesting because one of the things I wanted to talk about, if it's okay with you guys, I'd just like to shower you in praise for a little bit at the start.
Well, I mean, not going to say no to that.
Yeah, I mean, any curious
You do know your
fuckers with a praise kink, just get
praise
comfortable.
king, yeah. And I was just talking about the narcissistic personality traits. I'm like, yes, please tell me more.
But no, it's really interesting because when I started doing my podcast, I'd get a lot of love because of the openness and honesty on a lot of big subjects, and that wasn't as big at the time. And I again, it's all my guests. I had some amazing guests who really opened up about mental health, suicide, all sorts of things, abuse, all sorts of really heavy things. Now that's far more common in podcasting and more out there, which is fucking great. It's great that everyone's talking about things a lot more, but it also worries me at times because you guys will know that when you speak about something really personal, it's nerve-wracking at first, but then the listeners hear and they give you praise and they give you love and they give you warmth, and that's a beautiful thing, but it can be addictive. And I think one of the things that really floors me about you guys is your control over your openness and your sharing. And easy recent example is Reed, like when you and your partner were having, or partner at the time, were having a break.
Yeah.
The urge to talk about it immediately will have been there, but it's really easy for your life to just turn into content, and everything is just content, and that's all you're doing. And I think that can be damaging. So I love that you guys, both of you, will have points where you're like, we're going to have some stuff to talk about in a bit, but I'm going to process it first. So you're looking out for your mental health, the other person involves mental health, the sanctity of the break as such, because when it becomes a topic on the podcast, you're not finding out what is really happening there, and purity and all of these different situations. So yeah, I love that. I think you guys are really good at having that openness and honesty and that relationship with your listeners, but looking out for yourself first, like not at the cost of your own mental health. Like, I need to share this, and then you're not ready to. So yeah,
but it can come at a cost. I'm sure we've all done it where we've shared too much, or doing this has really affected our personal lives, and it's trying to put in those boundaries for yourself. I think and it's just so hard because everything is content. You want to talk about everything. I mean, our podcast is therapy for Florence and I. A lot of the time we're like, wow, that was a great therapy session, but we react
the deep
so strongly. The DMCs, we react so strongly to emotion, and especially if you're going through something that's quite big or difficult to talk about, then stopping yourself before it's just like, I fucking hate him, and then you're like, no, I don't actually feel like that.
But again, it's all different times and depends on the situation. It is all unique, but I think it allows you to be more open as well. Like I get a lot of praise for my openness on podcasts, in my music and that, but that's because I'm really private about the things I want to be private about, and because I keep them close to myself, I feel comfortable and relaxed to say, here's something I want to talk about with you guys and be open about and things like that. So yeah,
we're all learning to put that in at the moment. I think everyone's getting to a point where it's like, wow, I think I've shared too much, and like, what is the effect of that on your personal life and your energy? And I think social media is that like game where everyone's like, I have to keep putting out like these posts that like really
they get a lot of likes. They get a lot of likes and they get a lot of reaction, and you know.
Yeah.
Vulnerability is currency on social media, and that can be so taxing to you as an individual, especially because as much as it might feel good in the moment and you get that instant gratification with all the likes and the sharing, afterwards you're like, oh, that's still there for the world to see. And then also everyone can comment on it as well. And yes, the nice comments, the supportive comments are there, but you will always get one or two that are a little bit shitty, and that can make you feel really shit about an already difficult and vulnerable situation to be. And it's just it's trying to like learn that. No one's ever taught us,
and it's
they?
a constant,
like,
isn't it? It's a constant learning thing. I had it last year. I've got a stammer, and I'm a patron for the British Stammering Association, and
amazing.
I did a load of work with them last year. That was some really good campaigns, and obviously I want to just help and be involved and do what I can. But that stuff adds up as well. Because again, it's the same. You get all this amazing reaction, but then you're like, oh, right, am I just the stuttering guy then? Is that all I am now? Because that's getting so much traction, and you're trying to use your platform to do all of that. But on things like that, I've had to consciously go, right, I'm going to step away from that for a little bit because I need to get myself okay again, rather than... Because again, as soon as I post about that, everyone's so warm and supportive because it's such a... As soon as I mentioned it, both of you understandably like, oh, wow, like, you know, it's a nice thing, it's this positive thing. And that can be addictive. All of these things can be addictive.
God,
so
and it's
true.
like, right, no, I can't.
Mm-hmm.
But as I said, I think you guys are really good at balancing that. And again, as I said, it is a constant learning thing.
I think you're right. Like that's Florence and I mean, I've turned into the pube girl. Every time I post about pubes or hair, I'm like, I even prefer just being fully shaven. But I'm like, oh, okay, well maybe I should grow my hair for a little bit. It's because everyone's so into the hair stuff. And the breakup stuff for you, Florence. It's
the heartbreak guru.
Yeah,
I recently, I think maybe it was like a few months ago, I was like, I'm not posting anything else about heartbreaks. I can't.
Nice.
I don't want that to be my thing.
Yeah, it
The
just
one that
attaches.
always has to go through these breakups.
Yeah,
But anyway,
we've hit the limit.
Yeah, we had a really, we were really excited because we thought maybe we could introduce some of the old format back into this episode with you, where we got guests on and we asked them about some of their kind of really important fucks that changed their life in some kind of way.
Yeah.
So in the old podcast we've had what's your best fuck, what's your worst fuck, what's the fuck that changed the game, what's the what the fuck, and also what's the fantasy fuck. And you've prepared for us. Did you pick one, or have you picked multiple?
I've got kind of a couple, or more things I want to say about a few. First, the change the game fuck thing for me. I think the change that I've not got a specific fuck on this one, but I just want to highlight the invention of Airbnb and how that's changed sex for so many people, I think. Because again, it's the fact is every Airbnb... I'm going away in a couple of days, and I was booking a hotel, and I'm looking at what kind of bath it's got, I'm looking at how big the shower is, and all these different things. I'm not going away for that. I'm going away to meet a mate. It's weirdly, it's an exercise thing. So I had to pull myself back, kind of, because I'm choosing this room. I'm like, yeah, that and this and that. And I'm like, oh no,
choosing a room for the fuck.
Yeah, exactly. I was completely booking based off that, and that's not what this trip is going to be anyway. So I was like, I'm going to be wasting my money, and I'm going to be sitting there frustrated that I'm like, this room would be amazing for all the things I'm not doing. Yeah. So it's weird on that. The other thing was the worst fuck, because I think it's a really interesting topic and conversation, because I used to work in retail, and like this looks like I'm swerving answers now and just bringing up topics instead, but I'm not. I've got kind of a specific on this as well. But I used to work in retail, and retail can be really incestuous because you're all together all the time. You're living for the weekend. You're all wanting to go out. And the thing that would annoy me, again, because I'm male, there's the existence of lads and lads chatting, and there'd be so many lads that would come back after a weekend and be like, oh, I slept with this girl or whatever who works in, like, awful in bed, a terrible fuck and whatever else. And I think people don't realise that bad sex is two people's fault, as is good sex. Like it's both people.
This.
And
Definitely.
Like the worst fuck that came to mind, and I'm not going to go into great detail because it feels, rude, but it came to mind because it's someone that I know or I'm pretty sure is fucking great in bed. And I'm perfectly happy with how I am in bed, but we didn't click. And it was someone who we'd flirted for a long time. We'd always both been in relationships, but it was always a bit of a heat. So we'd never broached it or anything like that. And this was years and years ago. And then we were finally single at the same time, and there'd been some sexting and stuff. And then we finally slept together, and we just didn't click. We just didn't have the same. We didn't have the same energies at the same point, or the same kinks, or whatever else it might be. And again, that's the thing that gets me. As I said, I've heard so many blokes slag women off for being a bad shag or this or that, and I was sitting there thinking, well, you fucked up last night then, man. 'Cause you weren't paying attention. You weren't paying attention to what was getting results, what wasn't getting results. You weren't attuned. You weren't communicating, like physically or verbally. And again, that's all on. That's on everyone. It's why I find it an interesting question. And same on the best ones as well. It's like you two could both sleep with the same guy on different points and have completely different experiences,
We definitely would.
There we go. That's it. I didn't want to assume anything there. That's why I didn't want to jump in.
Oh, yeah, I think there's only one guy that we both slept with, right?
Yeah, one guy, yeah. And
but then again, that's it. For one, it could be amazing, and for one, it could be awful. But that doesn't mean it's that person is a good fuck or a bad fuck. It means those people were a good fuck or a bad fuck. And
we maintain that there is no such thing as a bad fuck. It's just, it was at the time, or you didn't connect.
Well, it's the old. There's an old joke, and I can't believe I'm going to come on and tell an old man's sex joke. A dad sex, not a dad sex joke, but still.
Come on, give the dad sex joke.
There's an old joke where this guy is talking to his mate, and he's like, I had the worst blowjob in the history of blowjobs last night, like the worst that's ever happened. And his mate's like, how was it? And he's like, it was all right. Because you're still getting a blow. It's still the worst blowjob in the history of blowjobs. It's still pretty decent. It's still a pretty decent night out. And that's the same on all these things. As long as I don't know. Intimacy is a beautiful thing, and it worries me when people. I don't know if it's because I'm 41 now, so I was never in the kind of dating app era, and I worry that the kind of quick dismissal or swiping can apply it so quickly to sex now that it's like, well, no, that doesn't mean they're bad. That doesn't mean, and again, it could get good. It could. You've not got a responsibility to keep sleeping with them until it's good, but it could get. It's a weird one.
Some people need to learn skills,
of course,
but that's all about communication and talking to them about what you enjoy and bringing that conversation up. Because I got a flash of some guy going down on me, and he just did that really fast little pointy tongue thing, and I was like, that was bad.
Not for me.
It's the exact example I was going to give. A mate of mine talking about getting a bad blowjob, and it was like he was describing. I was like, well, why didn't you say anything?
Yeah,
they don't know what you're into, and again, the same on both sides of it. I'm fucking grateful for all the feedback I've ever had. Because you're learning and you're improving and you're getting better. The whole never fake an orgasm, have a conversation, give a lesson, talk and learn rather than just go, oh yeah, no, that was great.
Yeah, I feel like we
because then that weird quick tongue action is going on and on for all these poor women.
Forever. Take one for the team.
And this guy's thinking he's killing it. This guy's
this
guy's like the speed of my tongue. He's training beforehand. He's warming up. He's flexing.
Yeah. Well, he beforehand he was like, yeah, I love oral sex. I love going down.
Bigging it
up. And when he did it, I was like, you don't love this.
You can't love it. You just can't.
Because you can tell when someone loves it. And he was not eating my pussy. He loved eating pussy.
Yeah. Well, I feel like we're so quick to defense mode. If we didn't have a good time, we never want to look inward and think maybe it was on us. It's so easy to blame it on other people and go, they were shit. They didn't know what they were doing. And it's like, but you could have guided them. You could have set your boundaries. You could have told them what you actually like. No, slow down. I don't want penetrative sex. I want you to just go really slowly, barely touch,
Yeah,
it's just
hard to say.
Or I do
that
want penetrative sex, because that's both things as well. I've always been a big fan of foreplay, and again, I think it's at times a male thing because there's different pressures on a male with penetrative sex than there is with oral sex or any kind of foreplay, because women have the advantage of being able to have orgasm after orgasm. With men, once that's done, we're out. That's it. This is kind of game over from our side of things. So that's it. I think there are different pressures there, but I've definitely had situations where I've been with someone who, you know, is more than happy to just have loads of foreplay or whatever until they're exhausted and not care about penetrative sex. But then I've had other people who it hasn't occurred to me. I was like, well, you've come loads of times. I don't know. I didn't realise that you're missing something here. But that communication comes in. You're like, oh, right, I get that. I see. Now, you know.
It can also happen in the flip reverse. Like, I'm not a massive fan of being eaten out. I prefer penetrative sex, and sometimes I don't want any foreplay. I want penetrative sex, and then we can play and maybe do foreplay. But like, if someone is, you know, it's that format. Everyone goes to the immediate format of like fingering, blowjob, eating out, and then sex. And it's like that. Not everyone's into the format. It's about asking. It's about asking what people like, and also stating. Don't wait to be asked. State it if you can, if you feel comfortable to. Because you're right, Florence. It's really hard to do that in the moment sometimes.
It is. I'm wondering, like, I mean, I always think texting and like maybe even sexting before you get into stuff gives people like a little bit more of an idea of what someone wants. Like, it can be really beneficial to do that if you're scared of saying things in the moment. Because I know that for sure. I did not say anything to that guy with a speedy tongue. And then I think I had the conversation with him later on via text, but that didn't really go that well.
It's hard. I think it's better to do it in the moment.
It definitely would have been better.
But it's harder to do.
Yeah, I could be like, please, like, you know, slow down, like, you know, like, I don't know.
But you can,
like,
again, all of those things, though, that can be fucking hot. Like, if you phrase it correctly or say it in the right way, rather than stop that, that's horrible. Can you do you can ask to slow down or ask to do this or do that. And any guy's going to be happy to get in that kind of instruction and that kind of guidance, because it makes you think, right, well, this is, you know, we're going in the right direction or whatever. So,
I wonder if it's harder because, generally speaking, women are more submissive, men are more dominant, not necessarily, but generally speaking. And for a woman to ask for something, especially when they're in that submissive place or they just want someone to do everything for them, it's almost like coming out of not just character, but out of that headspace that you've got yourself in, where you just want them to do everything and get it right. And of course everyone wants that. Everyone wants people to know what your mind is thinking and to do it perfectly, but it's just not possible. We can't do that. So yeah, you're right. It's about asking in the right way and being like, oh my God, that's really nice, but would you mind slowing it down?
But I think Florence has nailed it there as well, though. I think sexting and anything in advance can be a really good way to lay down what you like and kind of even after, even if it's not gone the way you wanted and you didn't want to speak up, you don't have to text them, say, here's what was wrong. Next time things are getting a bit hot on text, you could be, I've been thinking of you doing this really slowly or doing this or that, and being specific on it. And then you can, so that it isn't. Remember last time? That was fucking awful. Can you sort of like, it's instead going, you came into my head today and I couldn't stop thinking of, and then you can give more instruction there as well. And it's kind of,
Amazing. And moving on from this area, a couple of episodes ago, we spoke about the 69 position being almost like a red flag and a toxic position if it's your favorite position. So what do you make of that? Do you like 69ing?
You see, this is gold, because you know when you listen to a podcast and you want to jump in and be part of the conversation, that's basically what I'm using this as. I sent Reed a list of things from previous episodes. I'm like, I want to talk to you guys about this, so I'm just jumping in. I'm doing what every listener wants to be able to do. But
I love it.
I couldn't agree more. I think it's bizarre. I think it's interesting because, again, another reason I like your podcast is it's educational as well for a male. Like, two things that you discussed, I think, in that episode were 69 and doggy style. And interestingly, I think they're the first two that were like mainstream fetishized.
Yeah,
really.
They were.
They were the first two, like, guys would talk about fucking a girl doggy. And 69s. They're the two that were these mainstream kinky things. I think it's why people can get obsessed with them. And the doggy conversation, I said, was fascinating to me because I've never thought about the difference or never given enough, maybe selfishly, never given enough attention into the difference of angle. And the fact is, if we go into the trouble of putting like a pillow under your hips when we're in missionary to really get that angle perfect, how are we going doggy going? It's probably hitting roughly the right. It's in the right. It'll be if we go into that nuance in these situations to get it exactly right. Of course, it's a big difference. So it's an interesting one. And again, I think there is a dominance thing there. There is the beauty of more physical control because you are in a position where you can have, like, you're in complete control. You can control the body of your partner. You're kneeling, so you're in control of your own body. But yeah, it was really interesting to kind of be educated on that, to kind of go, all right, okay, that's an angle, that's a position that's fine, but maybe that's not this is the big ending. Let's go for this kind of thing. Because at that point, it might be going, all right, let's. But the 69.
If you have like a kink for it, or you really love it, that's the position that makes you come. Fair enough, but it's worth having a conversation with your partner and asking, is that something you're into? And if not, then how can we make it the best for you?
Yeah,
I think these positions are just inherently quite selfish. It seems like I'm getting my rocks off, and I don't really care about how you feel. But you know. That's changing now. We're actually becoming more aware of how other people feel in the bedroom, which is good.
I was thinking, like, during doggy, there's so many different ways you can do doggy as well. You can do it with your, like, legs, like, closed or, like, super wide, or, you know, like, there'll be...
face down, arse up. You know, like,
exactly. Or, like, your face is, like, higher. I once was talking to someone and they were like, oh, I was fucking someone doggy, and like they wouldn't stop like arching their back in like not a hot way. And like as he was talking, I was like, but like surely like it's quite hard, because I always think when I'm in doggy, I go into like performative mode because I'm not like,
yes, it's porny.
It's not.
Yeah,
completely. It's not really for my pleasure. So I'm like, okay, like arch my back, like get my like butt out so like I look visually appealing to them. But then I was thinking, but there are moments where I get into it and I can feel my back like getting out of the arch
like,
position,
ow,
because it's like it's actually more comfortable if you're not in that position.
Of course it is.
And it can be pleasurable. There are times it can be pleasurable, but most of the time it doesn't just doesn't hit right. It's performative. It's all the visuals.
I reckon doggy's probably more like better for us if we had our backs arched in a different way.
Yeah. Or maybe we just didn't fucking do doggy. Or we had like the doggy pillow where we would lie on top of it and we just don't even have to hold ourselves up.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. The fact is, there's loads of different variations that are far more comfortable. Like you could be over something, or you know, there's all sorts of things like that the guys get in the same position, but you're getting a lot more comfort. But sorry, I've diverted again. But at 69s, I couldn't agree more. I don't understand why there's this excitement over them. I'm tall. I'm 6'4", so they're always awkward anyway. But it's like my thought with the 69 is like, what's the rush?
Yeah.
Like receiving head and giving head, for me, are two of the best things in the world. Like massively into both of them. So why not do one and then do the other and really enjoy them? Like I love pizza and ice cream. But if someone dumps ice cream on my pizza, I'd be like, why have you put these together? I want to savour every slice of the pizza and then devour every bit of the ice cream. And these things should be enjoyed separately. It feels like a rush. And if it's a rush, then just fuck. Because that can be done in a rush, in a fun way. Yeah, I think it's, again, but it's that thing. I do think it's because it was the first kink to be more mainstream and public. It's like it's the 50 Shades of Grey of positions.
Oh,
it's
my
like
God,
people if you like 69 and then you're going to love this. If you liked 50 Shades of Grey, wait till you find out about Four Chambers or whatever else, whatever proper good shit there is out there, kind of thing. And it feels like that. It's like people. And just quickly as well, I don't want to kind of shame anyone who is into it, because if it does make you feel kinky and sexy and whatever else, then cool. But yeah, I completely agree. I don't think either way up it's comfortable for anyone. And equally, I'd rather enjoy both parts of that fully. I'd rather really lose myself going down on someone or lose myself having someone go down on me, rather than be confused at both.
focus on two things at the same time. That's always been the thing for me. I always found that it was like the thing that you needed to tick off the sexual bucket list.
Yeah. When you're first fucking, you're doing all the positions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I literally remember the first time that I 69'd and I was like, huh.
Yeah, I was really disappointed. I was like, well, what the fuck was that? I'm never, ever going to come. I can't even experience any pleasure from this. I'm just so overly aware of everything. But I could see it maybe from a male point of view who loves having like, you know, who loves eating pussy and loves face sitting. Was it? Yeah, face sitting. And also having your dick sucked at the same time as that, I imagine in your fantasy is perfect and amazing and like feels really good. But in the reality, there's just so much going on.
Yeah.
And then therefore becomes a bit of a selfish position.
There probably are people who, if they fit perfectly.
Yeah, and it works. Yeah.
And again, I need to quickly say the fucking imposter syndrome and paranoia I've got coming on as the first guy after Orlando, who's got the sexiest voice, the sexiest name, looks sexy. His stories are like, I was 8 hours into a DMT-induced sex fest doing a handstand and my partner was on top of me and all this. And I'm like, I had a blowjob once. So fucking hell, how can I follow that dude?
Orlando's
Of course
great.
you can.
But yeah, he's got some good stories.
Experiences are just as good as...
Of
just
course.
as valid.
Of course.
That one blowjob you had once was probably amazing
Yeah.
for you.
So good. It was such a moment. That time we 69'd. I always remember a mate of mine, again, coming into H&V when I worked in retail. And he was saying...
HMV, back in the day.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
It was emotional times. And he came in and he was like, he wanted to tell a story about him and his girlfriend last night. And I've never been that guy. I think it's weird because in formats like this, I think it's really important to be open. I think sex positivity and openness about sex is a step towards solving loads of the problems with sex in this country, with men who are violent and aggressive because they've not expressed or not learnt these things. But yeah, I've never been one for kind of lads like, oh, fuck this bird last night.
Yeah.
But the thing that always stuck with me was he was like, he wanted to tell me about this night, and his opening sentence just killed me because he just said, so we were performing the 69, and just starting with just the performance of it.
Yeah,
we were performing the 69, and it just always I think that ruined the position for me a little bit.
He's got it right. They were performing it. They weren't
exactly
enjoying
that.
it.
We were young kids.
It
was an early relationship, and at that point, you're like, here's the moves that you do.
Yeah. The tick list.
That's kind of what sex was like when you were a teenager, when you first started fucking. Like, it was all just like, ooh, like, we need to try that, we need to try this. And it didn't necessarily feel super good in my first relationship anyway. It was just like, the first time I had sex, we had sex in my bed and then we had shower sex. So it was like ticking that off as well in the same night of losing my virginity.
It's the porn list, the porn position list. Because you're only ever hearing it, either you're watching it in porn or seeing it online, or you're hearing it from your mates, and they're sort of categorizing it in these porn terms, which is like, have you had shower sex yet? Oh my God, it's amazing. And it's like, no, it isn't. Like,
and loads of your mates are just talking about it because they've literally watched it in porn.
Yes, not even done it.
Bath sex was one of them for me. It's like, that's fucking awkward as fuck, man. And as again, similar with shower sex, the water, you know, can cause issues because of the removal of the natural
the UTIs, the dry fucking. I cannot. Yeah. You need lube.
Is a shower thing as
and
well.
The position. Oh, the position. It's you're in some uncomfortable, like you're in a crab position and then you're on your tippy toes. And
again, I've had some really good situations in that situation, but it's not what we are led to believe when it's like this sexy
it's all
thing.
fake.
But
it was all fake.
But before I forget it as well, the what the fuck one that came, the what the fuck that came to mind was more because I genuinely remember thinking, what is going on? Like how are we here? How is this happening? And it was another one. It was a while back, and we'd had a lot of sexting and back and forth. I think we had slept together a few times at that point, but we lived in different ends of the country. And I was up in Sheffield doing some writing and had a hotel room. And we arranged, I planned carefully. Yeah. And we arranged to meet up. And again, it's that beautiful time when it is, you're going to have a wonderful time together in general, but there's such tension and it's all so built up. And I remember us getting in the hotel room and me pinning her against the wall, and we're removing clothes, and it's all getting very sexy. And I go down on her while she's standing up, and she throws a leg over my shoulder. And again, I'm 6'4" and quite, particularly at that point, in decent shape. I suddenly grabbed the other leg and started standing up. So shit. It was a high ceiling. So I'm now stood up at 6'4" with legs over my shoulder, going down on this girl as her hands are on the ceiling. And it was fucking amazing. It was really, but again, God, it was beautiful. It was such, but it was the fact it wasn't a planned position or we need to tick this off the box. It happened really naturally. And I just remember as it was going really well, because again, set and situation, I think, really influence pleasure and all that kind of thing as well. It's not as simple as the mechanics of it all. Yeah. So, I remember it going all really well there. But a moment of me going like, I didn't know this was an option. I didn't plan to start picking you up and pinning you to the ceiling, essentially. Like, because it was a high ceiling, but not that high. So there was some kind of, levels of panic and fear involved. Because it's a long way to fall as well.
How do I get out of this? Oh,
exactly.
Okay.
But as I said, it went really well, and it removed the kind of the pressure of that standing up sex or oral or whatever else where the knees go weak and then there's this panic. It's like, oh no, I've already got you. I've already very much got you. You can go, your whole body can go as limp as you want because I now will carry you and put you down on the bed.
On the ceiling in the corner.
Yeah, it was mad. Like, it was that. But again, it was amazing and it was really,
You mentioned earlier on, four chambers, four-chambered heart, which is amazing because Vex is one of, we know Vex really well. We've had her on the podcast before. And we wanted to talk about paying for porn, with you because it's, I don't think enough people talk about it, especially being a straight man, especially being of an era where we got porn for free all over the internet. And now paying for porn is still so weird to us, even though we're happy paying for Netflix and we're happy paying for like Prime and shit. We still haven't got over the hurdle with porn.
Oh my God, we're paying for so many subscriptions. It's crazy.
Right? It's normal.
And we've not got a problem at all. It's really interesting. I do a post every now and then. I did one in December, a tweet that kind of just saying, like, December is traditionally a really tough month for sex workers because people are doing family stuff, people are spending money's tight, all this kind of thing. Yeah. So if there's any sex workers who follow me, plug your shit here, like put your links, do all of this. And it always goes down really well. But there's always a few people who, again, as you said, cis white males or non-sex workers often don't talk that much about paying for porn because people will accuse you of being a simp or whatever else. But I come from the music industry, and when I started doing music, people were happy to pay for music.
Of course,
and then as my career went on, people started to feel that they're entitled to every song in the world ever for free, and that's really tough for someone who's putting their heart and soul into this. So again, I feel the same way with sex work. I currently probably watch more porn than I ever have, and it's because of the kind of the OnlyFans revolution as such. And again, you've talked a lot about how shit OnlyFans can be and how shit they have been. But I think there was definitely early days where I'd feel bad watching porn because of knowing how fucked up the industry was, knowing there's these big production houses that are ripping off the performers, all these kind of things. And I remember early on Pornhub, amateur would be one of the first searches I'm putting in because you're like, oh right, this is a person actually doing this. And then that came perfectly when OnlyFans and all these other things, Fansly, Pocket Stars, Admire Me, all of these started to come out because you get to pay that the performer, the creator, is being paid direct. You know that they're in control, that they can choose their limits. And there's psychological things there that still, that will still be encountered because you might want to do things that you maybe don't want to do because it pays well. There's things like that, but there's no external force sitting there going,
Yeah.
you've got to do this on this, or we're going to get you coked up and then we're going to bring in this guy or this, all these fucked up things. The reason I was up for discussing this was I wanted to share with you how I watch porn. Now, it's not like that.
Please.
This isn't really fucked up, but because Reed, you or both of you expressed a slight guilt at points of using Pornhub still.
Yeah.
As
less so with
creators
Pornhub, but
of
just
content.
the porn tube sites. They're like, I still can't stop. I've still got that addiction.
Pornhub has gone in that direction where everyone is more verified now. It should be the only people, and that's the reason. The way I describe it, and again, this isn't a conversation I have a lot, so I was excited to have it. I use Pornhub like Spotify.
Yes.
I find the stuff I'm into, and then if I like someone, I'll go and buy their merch. Or I'll go and see their gig.
Right.
It's tough with lust and arousal because you don't know what you're going to be in the mood for at the time, and we've all got a limited amount of income. So if I'm subscribed to 3 people this month on OnlyFans, I might not be in the mood for those 3 people this month, or on this particular night. So Pornhub is great for the browsing period, and then in general, when I can, I'll find some. Like, there's loads of people I follow on OnlyFans or on different platforms that I found through browsing free porn, and I think that's the only way we can justify your Spotify's and that. I wanted to express that partly as said to be someone who isn't in sex work, saying there's nothing wrong with paying for sex. It's good. It's positive. It's a positive thing. It doesn't make you feel like you're pathetic or anything else. But also partly as said, people feel guilty because you are going to browse the free porn as well. It can't be this. All industries can get too hard line at points. And again, I know a lot of musicians who are like, who've taken all their music off Spotify and things like that. And I get it, I understand it. But that's probably not the way to solve the Spotify issue. I don't know what the way is. You're punishing your audience who can't get it anymore.
Yeah.
Like, again, that OnlyFans scandal. I turned down OnlyFans just before that scandal happened because OnlyFans reached up directly asking me to make podcast content on there and stuff like that. And I wrote this long response saying, look, it feels like you're trying to get away from the people that built your platform.
Yes.
Who are sex workers.
Yes,
so I was like,
you.
I'm not up for that because I don't want to be part of that. And they replied saying, not at all. We're so proud of everything, blah, blah. And then literally a few months later, they tried to get rid of sex workers.
So
and that was tough as well because they're almost too big to fail.
Yeah.
Like, if everyone could have gone to one place, then you could have all boycotted OnlyFans from a creator point of view. Obviously, the fear is the audience boycotting and it damaging you guys rather than anyone else. But if everyone had gone to Fansly, then that would have worked. But the fact is, people buying porn are lazy. Yeah, if they have to have their Fansly account and their Admire Me and their Pockets and all this to get the people that they want to watch or the content that they want to watch, then OnlyFans is easy for that. It's all there.
Yeah, everyone's there on
app.
OnlyFans.
Yeah.
It seems. I think people feel less taboo about having an OnlyFans subscription as well than other websites, which I'm not sure why.
They've made it so mainstream, and exactly what you were saying, Pip, where they're getting people, non-porn people in to try and have non-explicit content go out. I mean, they have an OnlyFans TV platform, and that they want performers. Yeah, they want performers to go on there, but it's not explicit. So it's like they've asked me about it, and it's like it has to be like TV, and it's like, oh, you could earn so much money if you got all of your top OnlyFans creators doing crazy shit on a fucking channel. Do you know how much money that would make? Everyone would be happy. But no, they're trying really hard to move away from the adult industry, and again keep it taboo, and they're lying
and that's
to
the
our
problem.
faces.
It's the moving away. Again, I think all of that is positive if it's not at the cost of sex workers.
This episode is sponsored by Joy Club.
To all the kink and fetish lovers out there, aren't you sick and tired of not having a place to go to find people?
Oh, it's so important when you find your community and a space to explore what you truly desire in the bedroom.
I felt so lost and lonely when I couldn't find people with tickle fetishes. So using a space like Joy Club has allowed me to connect with like-minded people.
They also have loads of live sessions and tutorials like Shibari. So finally, I can get my hands onto some rope.
And for anyone living in the UK, Joy Club is free for the first year.
Ooh. Sign up now and we'll see you over there.
That's joyclub.com. We've done a little agony aunt section. You're going to be taking the agony aunt role, and we have a couple of listener questions for you.
We
which
do.
are quite fun.
The first one is how to help a guy last longer.
That's interesting. And I think it's variating what you're doing. Because again, I don't subscribe to the think of football or think of work or think of something else, because you're missing. Why
Think
are you
of
there?
your mum. Why?
Like, again,
Grandma.
all of that stuff. It's like you should be lost in that moment. It's fucking like you're getting to have sex. You shouldn't be drifting off somewhere else to try and last longer. So if you're struggling with that, then you can pull out. You can go over to some fingering. You can you can be doing all sorts of other things, and you can keep that in kind of a healthy rotation as such, rather than it being imagine you're not in the room, because that seems like a waste. It's like, just stop doing it then. Just get up and leave.
What's the point of having sex if you're not in it?
If you're not going to enjoy it and be lost in it. Condoms can make you last longer. There can be specific condoms to make you last longer. I was thinking it earlier, Florence, when you were talking about a sexting. I'm like, it's so weird, because you can't bring up a condom in sexting, because that's not hot in any way, shape or form. But for the reality of sex, it'd be for the reality of sex, it'd be beautiful if you could, because you could have been sexting all this time, and then it comes to it, and you're not in a long-term relationship, and you have to think of safety and everything. That can kill the mood a bit. But again, in this respect, it can be really helpful, because it can make things last longer. It can be a change there as well.
I think it's sexy, like in some of my erotic stories that I wrote in my book, I tried to use condoms in some of them. And some of them aren't protected, some of them are protected. Because I was like, gotta try and make the condom using like a sexy act. He pulls out the condom and then rolls it down his shaft,
Someone brings up the conversation around condoms. That in itself is sexy. It's like they're looking after their sexual health. They're looking after your sexual health. Yeah. And it can just be like, so, how do you feel about condoms? Like, is that something you're okay with? And having a conversation around it can make it, I don't know, if someone was to ask me, like, oh, what are your thoughts on condoms? Then, I'd just be like, oh, whoa, he's so mature.
I've got genuinely sexy memories of condoms. And one came to mind instantly then, and it's the same person that was on my shoulders in Sheffield. But I'm laying down, and I've pulled them up to sit on my face, their hands kind of on the headboard or whatever else, and while I'm eating them out, I'm putting a condom on, and then when the point is right, can kind of slip from underneath. Again, sadly, it's a sexy memory that ends in doggy, which is now ruined for me. Thanks, guys. but then, no, again, the beauty of that is I can slip out from under the legs and be behind, and then we're fucking, and it's a really kind of a really good transition from all of that build. But it's a sexy memory because I'm there, knowing that I'm preparing.
Yes, you're going to
have this
sex,
whilst also giving pleasure at the same time. So it's a really good balance, and then knowing that this is now going to change pace. It's going to be a different thing now, because there's a headboard, there's all of the position and everything. So again, and that's a condom-based, genuinely erotic memory of mine. It's like, it shouldn't have to be this. Forgetting that bit, because it's boring.
You can make it sexy. I love putting a condom on another person. That's exciting, and it's so intimate, and nobody really does it, and it kind of gets rid of that awkward, like, oh my God, gotta get the condom on real quick and stick it in you. It's this whole like, no, let's take our time and sew it down, and I want to put this on you, and it's like, this is an intimate moment that we're both agreeing on. So good.
I'm a massive advocate on letting or requesting or suggesting your partner continues to play with themselves while you're putting on a condom, and take your time with it.
Okay, so next question we have is, cheated in brackets, messaged another girl for 6 weeks and spoke about positions and asked for pics, close brackets. Can I get over it?
I've got experience on this because I've been in the first relationship I was in when my music career took off. I was suddenly getting all this attention, and suddenly I blew up on social media. It was MySpace and then all these kind of things. So I'm suddenly getting people in my DMs, and I'm on tour, and it's weird because it doesn't feel real. Like, you can disassociate. It's the internet. It's not real. It feels like you're watching porn and things like that, but it's not. You know, I hate technicalities. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know if what you're doing is going to hurt someone or not. So you going, oh, it's not technically cheating, it's not this or that. It's like, fuck off, I don't care. So I was the one in the wrong there, and I got caught, and I felt fucking awful, and it was horrible. And I tried to come on the kind of, for a second, tried to think on the, but it's not, I didn't do anything physically, I didn't do this. It's like, fuck that. You know what you're doing, and you know the hurt that causes, and it's not for anyone else to answer if you can or can't get over that, sadly, because
it's taking accountability, right? And you're right. It doesn't matter whether it's a message or if it's like liking a photo on Instagram. If you know your partner isn't okay with it, then that's doing something that you're actively going against what your partner would want.
I do think that we've put cheating on this weird pedestal in terms of like, it's the worst thing that you can do in relationships, and it's like the relationship's over when someone cheats because it means certain things, and you're like, oh, I'll never be able to trust them again. But I do think that cheating is a lot more complicated than that, and actually a lot of the time people stay with people that have cheated with them because it's just not that simple. I think people can get over it.
It rarely happens that someone is actively going, I'm going to go and do this to hurt you. I'm going to go and fuck someone else. It's always an accident. It's always like a slip up or a lack
caught in the moment.
Yeah. That's just being human. But it still can hurt and be hard.
I was going to say,
deal with.
it's valid that equally it's fine if you can't get over it. And you have to be honest with yourself on that, because I think it equally can't work if you're going to hold that over the person for the rest of the relationship either. They are the one that fucked up and did wrong, but you can't move on unless you're properly moving on. So
All right, next question. This one says, Pip's look for the woman will confirm any doubts that you have in your relationship. Facts.
Oh, what's that? What's looks for the woman?
On our first album, we had a song called Look for the Woman. And it's about a breakup. It's really interesting how it was written, actually, because the hook was written by Dan Lassac, who was the producer I worked with for most of my career, and I wouldn't send him the verses for ages because I knew that it was kind of about his relationship. And the hook is at the time, the hook is, there's a weight over me today, something I have to say. I love you too much to leave, but don't love you enough to stay. So it's really bleak and personal. I was like, look, I don't want to... I wrote my lyrics about my previous experiences in that kind of situation, but I was like, I can't send this to you because I don't want to lead you one way or the other. I don't want my lyrics to make you go, yep, I should end it, or no, I shouldn't.
Yeah.
It ended up ending, and then I was like, well, here's my kind of angle on it all.
The next one is, on another pod, he spoke about non-sexual erections when being emotionally close with friends. Ooh, tell us more.
God, my therapist and I were talking about that today. That's really cool. I love non-sexual erections. They're amazing.
I spoke about it on either the Cuddle Club pod, which is great. Lou Sanders has got a podcast just about cuddling, and it's wonderful.
That's amazing.
We really need that.
Yeah.
Or it was on Sex with Charlie and Nina, which I think you'd love as well, because it's two just really sex positive, open women talking about. They both worked in sex shops for years, and it's they've got some crazy stories. But I think the example I gave at that point is getting aroused when a female friend, but a platonic female friend, was crying on me.
Yeah.
And I'm not into crying. I've not got a crying kink, and it wasn't an arousal
ex has done
thing.
That. Yes.
And it's like I don't want anyone to know this, because it's not. And again, there's been numerous things where I'm like, I've got an erection at the moment for no reason. I'm not horny. I'm not turned on. But, like, for example, the world's strongest man competition is on TV. I don't
Oh
want
my
anyone
God,
to know I've got
stop.
an erection because they're going to think it's related to the world's strongest man, and it's not related to. I love the world's strongest man, but I'm not sexually heated up by it. And yeah, I think it's really weird. Before we started, we were briefly talking about aeroplanes, and I almost mentioned there's always at some point on an aeroplane I will get an erection, and it's not related to, I don't know if it's a pressures or like there's a thing Brett Goldstein talks about this a lot. There's a thing where if you watch an emotional film on a plane, you're more likely to cry.
What do you mean more like I cry on every single flight that I'm on?
Yeah.
Every flight.
So I think there is something that adjusts your emotions or whatever. And for me, I seem to get aroused on pretty much every plane I go on. Not ideal. I'm normally travelling on my own. And again, the porn myth of catching someone's eye across the aisle or whatever else doesn't really happen.
Never
Really
happens.
doesn't
The Mile
work.
High Club just doesn't go down. But I mean, I don't have a penis, but I wonder if especially the crying on the shoulder thing, where it's also a situation where you're like, I don't want to have an erection, but it's such an intimate moment. It might even be more intimate than sex itself. And there's, I mean, this is what I'm assuming, like with my ex. He would get erections at random times. Like when I first told him that I really, really liked him, he was so rock solid. And I was like, why are you hard? And he's like, I don't know. And it's almost like the vulnerability part and like almost, I don't know, like a caring part, a really intimate, emotional part that was potentially part of the erection. But also it could just be it could just be bodily. Yeah,
it's weird. Now, I wasn't sure if I was going to mention this, but I need to mention it here. I had a crushing breakup earlier this year. It's been really rough. But when we were having the conversation and we were in tears and it was really emotional, I got hard. Yes. And again, it was this weird thing of this isn't a sexual thing, I don't think, but this is with someone who I am very sexually attracted to, have a great sexual history with. So it's this weird thing that it's as said, but as you say, there's a huge intimacy there, even if it's a sad intimacy. Or
I'm doing the flip reverse at the moment. I'll have a wank and literally immediately after I come I will burst into tears, and I'm there like, this is what happened last night. I'm not even feeling breakup sad. I feel like I'm feeling pretty good, and yet I still came and immediately afterwards was like sobbing on my own, like and I was like, why are they so fucking close?
Yeah, there's something to do with pleasure and your emotional gateway.
It's the lack of control over when those emotions come. Like I had a friend recently who had a funeral last week, and the kind of advice I gave to him before going was try, if you can, to celebrate their life rather than mourn their death. And that's kind of where I am 90% of the time with this breakup now. I'm sitting there going, man, how fucking lucky was I? Like again, it was a relationship that changed me as a person, changed my life. And so I'm trying to live in that space of how lucky am I to have been part of that person's life, to have had that person as part of my life, rather than focusing on the negative, it's all over, the heartbreak, I'm alone, and all these kind of things.
There's we got a last, it's not really a question, well, no, it is a question, but it's hilarious. Does eating pussy bleach your beard, or am I just turning naturally grey?
I don't think it does, but I've got a lot of grey in, and I've already expressed a proclivity for it. So I was going to say,
your pussy-eating area seems pretty ungreyed, so, you know, like,
I think it keeps
debunking the rule.
I'm proving it wrong. But again, it's all realisticness and honesty. But if you've recently had a moustache trim, for example, that could be uncomfortable for someone with a vagina and things like that. Whereas if it's a bit longer, it probably won't aggravate as much, but you might want to go and have a bit of a splash of water when you're done, because you're probably going to get quite messy. Even
stubble. I remember being eaten out for ages, and the guy had stubble, and it was like sandpaper. I was like, that fucking kills.
Yeah. When I was a teenager, I always used to get like beard rash from kissing people that had stubble, but I don't know why that doesn't happen to me anymore. Maybe it's like when you have like soft, supple skin of like a teen.
Maybe dudes now are just looking after their facial hair more, and so it's less scratchy, potentially. Yeah. To round off, we would love to ask you your fuck off story.
Right, yes. I'd forgotten that we were going to get to this. Right, so This was a weird one because it made me question everything in my life and my future. Again, most of these stories are a long time ago because, I don't know, I feel it's more respectful if it's further in the past. It's like true crime podcasts.
Yeah.
It's like true crime
I think I
podcasts. It's
feel
fine if it's 100 years ago, but last week, this is rude. So, yeah, I seen this girl, and she was quite into choking. So we'd had some times where we'd had sex where that had been a big thing and it had been a huge part of it. But the thing with choking is, if you're doing it right, you're not just throttling someone. You're playing into the sexual situation. You're aware that it's the sides, not the front, because you're cutting off the carotid artery.
Well,
it's blood to
a lot
the
of people
brain.
aren't aware of that.
And again, the front can be part of it if you're having something particularly that's based on discomfort or whatever else. But you've all these kind of things. But I guess the reason I feel that's relevant is choking as part of sex can be a really good part of building up and then release, and then building up and then release, and building up and then release. So if, for example, they're only being pleasured while they're being choked, and then when they get a breath of fresh air, they can't, they're not being pleasured. All these things that can play in. But
right? What the fuck?
This person was just round my flat and was about to head home. So we were just having a bit of a kiss, standing up in the living room as they were about to leave, and it started to get heated and there started to be some choking, and the kissing got more passionate and our hands were grabbing and more passionate, but it still wasn't anything with our genitals. So my maybe ignorance or youth didn't think about the fact we've not got the kind of the natural build and releases. So at some point out of nowhere she drops to the floor unconscious.
Oh shit! Oh fuck!
And I'm standing in my living room I've caught her kind of thing and laid her down, and I'm like, have I just killed someone? Like genuinely not thinking it's unconscious, thinking I've just done a sex murder.
Yeah, I murdered them. Oh my god!
And genuinely, the thoughts, because she woke up quite quickly. It must have, the speed that things went through my mind. I was like, well, what do I do? Do I ring the police? Do I ring a mate?
Bury her in the garden?
Yeah, exactly. I was like, is my brother about? I instantly went to my brother. I now know the answer to the question: who would you ring if you had to bury a body? Because I was just like, I'm going to ring Ian because I don't know what to do here.
He knows. He knows how to deal with a murder.
Yeah. He'll help me out here. And the rush of all of those thoughts in that moment, and thinking, like, again, just you think of all of your life. I'm like, well, my career's over because I've just killed someone. And then she woke up, and I was kind of like, you all right? And she was a bit confused, like, yep, this is weird, isn't it? And it was all fine. But the weirder part was I live in a small town in Essex, and trains are only like every hour. So she had to rush off and get her train.
Oh, no.
So she literally left almost immediately. And then we're texting each other, and she's like, yeah, I'm sat on a train like a minute ago. I was waking up in someone's living room because she had to get back for work or whatever. So, and I'm sat in my living room like, fuck, that was all of this happened in the shortest amount of time.
Were you both okay after it?
I mean, we were texting a lot again, and it became a funny thing quite quickly, led by her, which has to be the way in that kind of situation. Yeah. I can't stop being, fucking hell, that was mad, wasn't it? Remember when I almost killed you?
Yeah, you remember when you almost died?
Yeah. So it was fine, and it's not someone I'm in contact with, but we've had contact in the past since then, and it has been kind of a, how mad was that? Do you remember that time?
Yeah.
I thought I'd killed you. So yeah, that was...
I mean, accidents happen when especially if you're playing around with choking. But I mean, that's happened to me before where I was like, I went unconscious, but then, I don't know how to explain it. We were both lying down, so he didn't know either. And I was like tapping him, like, stop, just give me a second, stop. I was like, whoa, like my whole body shut down, pins and needles everywhere. And I was like, what's just happened? Oh, we're still fucking. Okay, stop. I need a break.
Mad, isn't it? Again, it's the mainstream. It's the mainstream nature of kink. It's the public absorbing of kink without necessarily learning what's needed. I follow a couple of doms on Instagram, and I'm not particularly into to any of the dom dynamic, but Margot Throbby is one that I follow.
Oh my God, Margot Throbby.
I'm not particularly into a lot of her content because I'm not into that particular kink, but I think she's wonderful and articulates things really well and is really funny. And one of the things that she talks about a lot as a dom is the lack of knowledge in that kind of kink in doms these days, but in general in people thinking, oh, I want to get into choking or spanking or whatever else, and all of these things can be hot as fuck, but they can also be really dangerous.
That's
and
why
really
we like them, though,
unpleasant.
right? That's why we like them.
Exactly.
But we just have to learn. We got to do our research. We have to know what happens if you do choke someone out, and like how to deal with that aftermath. You know, like don't go into.
I've now
slap
done
him and choke him again. Like
I've now done years of Brazilian jiu-jitsu, so I'm far more comfortable with people being unconscious, and I'm far better at choking people. But you know, these things at the time weren't really there. So
yeah, do your research and like take a break and a breather and just check in, guys. Just all you need to do is check in.
In sex, it feels like there's such natural check-in points, but in this, because we were just kissing and it was so unplanned, it's like no check-in point until I'm waking you up on the floor.
Yeah.
Just check it in. You're right.
You're right.
I've decided to stop.
See ya. I'm going. I'm out.
Yeah.
But this has been an incredible episode. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat to us.
Thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
Please tell the curious fuckers where they can find you and your Twitter and your Instagram and everything.
I mean, I'm kind of off socials at the moment, other than Instagram stories, so it's a bit boring there. But I'm about just search for me. But Distraction Pieces Podcast is my podcast. That's out every week, and then my main work thing at the moment is acting and script writing, so there's a load of things I've been in recent years and a load of things coming up, so go and have a look at my IMDb and see if anything catches your eye.
Well, curious fuckers, if you enjoyed this episode, please share it far and wide. Everyone you know wants to listen to this one, and as always, please give us a rating and a review. It helps so much get this podcast into more people's ears.
And of course, you can keep up to date with us on Instagram and other social medias. We're trying, what are we trying? It's like TikTok and something else. I don't know.
Oh, yeah,
Twitter
YouTube
has been
Shorts.
left behind. YouTube Shorts, motherfucker. So please check us out there. Follow us on @ComeCurious and also our personal accounts, Reed Amber X and Florence Bark.
Until then, see you next Thursday, curious fuckers.
See you next Thursday. Goodbye. Goodbye, Pip.
Bye.
Bye.